Let's talk about Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, the latest from Ryan Johnson, a twisty, turny caper of sorts. Karsten, you did not have to leave this one early this time. What was your reaction to Glass Onion?
I really liked it. It's hard. I don't know how much we're going to talk about this because it is hard to get into it without spoiling it. Like I don't know how much I want to say. It does some things that literally right off the bat, like first shot, I'm like, oh, we're doing this. That it kind of gets away with, in my opinion. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like, I think I cringe at these choices a lot in movies these days, but Ryan Johnson manages to make it pretty funny.
It's a movie that feels very contemporary without feeling like it's trying to remind you that it's contemporary.
Right. And I've seen a lot of complaints about that or not a lot, but like one guy in particular really didn't like it. And I'm like, the first Knives Out was all about this. It was like a very contemporary movie. Like the one kid was like on Twitter the whole time, and like it dealt with a lot of just like stuff we see now. And I just think that's like part of the appeal for Knives Out, to me at least, is like really capturing the annoying moment we're in right now and like the people around. Like I don't know. It just really gets it. And I don't know. I don't think it's as good as the first one as a film, but I think the whodunit mystery is a lot more ambitious and satisfying than the first one. I just don't think, if that makes sense. Like I think,
it feels like he took the first film and tried to double down on the whole twistiness, turniness. Like, I'm going to show you one thing and it's going to turn out to be another thing kind of element of it. And in some respects, it works really well. And Ryan Johnson is just so good at like the art of deception in a film. But in another, on the other hand, like I did find it to be a little more random than the first one. And that randomness maybe left me a little colder. I still thought this was excellent. Jeff, I know you liked it a lot. Did you like it more than the first?
I wouldn't say more. I would say about the same. The only thing holding it back for me was exactly what you just mentioned, where some of the choices did feel kind of random and you know, to the point where it's like you couldn't have seen it coming because you didn't even think it was a possibility.
Right.
It's like they're just adding elements to make what happened before make sense.
That's fair.
Honestly, I thought it got maybe this is the opposite. Like, I thought it did too much of the whole like set up this small object and this is gonna come back later. And
yeah.
I think the last
not
5
everything
minutes,
needs to be a twist,
right?
Yeah,
or not everything needs to be explained out from the twist.
Yeah. I honestly felt kind of dumb the last 5 minutes of the movie. I'm like, oh my god, I should have seen that coming. But it was like a big example of like so many times when the film is like it introduces something and then like and that's like cool. But I think that might be the one. It gets like a little repetitive after a while.
Right. Yeah.
There did feel
still fun. Yeah.
There did feel like there was a lot of Ryan Johnson just flexing in this movie. Like particularly the way the camera moved. Like there's this one interaction between Daniel Craig's character and Janelle Monáe's character where they're just seated up opposite each other. And the camera like zooms in and pulls out and moves up and then moves around them. And it's like so unnecessary for a two-person interaction. But like they're having fun and it's a fun movie. And I'm not going to begrudge them from like going a little bravura on what would otherwise be a very boring two-shot, you know?
Yeah, I do think it might be wearing maybe even more of its mystery on its sleeve compared to the first one. I know that like Ryan Johnson specifically says he's not trying to make these movies in a way that you're sitting there constantly racking your brains trying to figure out what's going to happen next. It wants to like reward you for some little things. But I do feel like the twists didn't come off quite to the same height as some of the ones in the first one. But it is fun to notice like a character do something and then being like, oh shit, character just did something. And then something happens to a character and you're like, I noticed that. But then they say something else. But then in your brain, you're like, no, that's not what I witnessed happen.
Yeah.
And then that becomes part of the lore of like, oh, well, like, you know, if somebody, you know, it's like the diversion and just different aspects of it, like weaving more into the mystery and like actual like ways how people like witnesses can like misremember things. So I thought it was really fun. I think if you like the first one, there's not really many reasons why you wouldn't also like this one. There's also a joke about sweatpants, which is just probably like the best joke of
the best joke of the
best joke of the festival, because it starts funny and then they add another layer to it, which just knocks you out and you're like, oh my God.
Yep.
So funny.
So
yeah.
good.
Very funny.
Would
joke.
you recommend paying $30 for this?
Yeah, I paid $50.
Definitely.
It's also that like, given that
I'll-
it's going to Netflix, it's going to be a rare chance to see it in a theater with a crowd.
Yeah.
It's a music
Aren't
box
they doing a
premiere too,
limited
so-
run? Aren't they doing it?
They are,
are.
but you know, with Netflix's like
limited.
restrictions, it's not going to be in
That's
AMC's and not going to
so
be in Regal.
shitty. That's
Yeah.
so unfortunate considering how big it was in theaters. Like,
And
it
beautiful.
sucked. Beautiful.
The production design is unreal on this movie.
Yeah.
And, hopefully you can notice it on your screen. Probably don't watch it on a laptop if you have a choice.
Yeah.
Art,
I'm
Art has
glad.
a great setup, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
But I'm glad Netflix gave him the bag. But at some point, it's kind of like I would have preferred you get less of a bag and have to go in theaters. Like,
Right.
just
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to say that Daniel Craig, like I saw the morning after the premiere,
Okay.
Yeah.
and he was so hungover he could not answer anything during the Q&A.
I believe that. I feel like he was drunk going to the truck after the premiere was, because I got caught up in the people trying to see the cast when I was leaving. And he was just like, like jumping through trying to get in.
he literally said that though. He's like, I'm too hungover. And then Edward Norton had to like take over every time anyone asked him a question.
Good for Edward Norton.
Wow.
That's why you go to a festival. Movie
Yeah.
magic.
To see
Exactly.
Daniel Craig drunk.
So good.